Yes. So, welcome back to yet another educative content today. So, it has been a long wait for all of you guys who are looking for a beautiful insights on body and mind and yoga and how well these things are related. In the same reference, today we'll be talking on genetics and yoga. So, I just to educate viewers who are not based on science. So genetics is something which we say as the study of your genes. So there are some variations which is there from your parents, their grandparents and all those things. Similarly, there is something called as these genetics are studied on the genes. These genes are nothing but the information which is stored in your each cell in form of DNAs and RNAs, and your body tries to encode these informations, and that leads to expression of these information in form of workability. So this is stored in form of chromosomes, which is nucleotides of amino acids. So there are a lot of things which is there, and a collection of these entire information in one such pool is what we call as genome. So I think you were aware of genome studies. There has a lot of been in-depth studies in genome, how we can alter, change the genetic material. For example, the coronavirus is nothing but gene alteration, removing the one such method is removing the causative factor or the causative protein from the cells of, or from the organism of, from the genes of that virus chromosome, and then making it a lot more conducive for staying with our body, so without having much implications. So this is how genes can make sure that they have an effect in your total organism. But the problem today, people they generally don't understand the importance of diseases which are there because of the genetic modification, and diseases which have been acquired, and we put the name as genetic diseases based on its criteria. So something like thalassemia, which is a blood disease, anemia, which is again a blood disease, and Huntington's disease, which comes as the age grows by, and obviously other genetics mismatch of the codes. This is what we call as technical diseases, which are 100% due to genes. But diseases such as diabetes, obesity, hypertension, Alzheimer's, cancer, hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism need not be attributed to genetics as such. So, what is the cause for obesity, diabetes, and all the other things which you generally see at the later stages of your life? Is because you're not taking care of your body well, you're not taking care of your mind well. So what happens is, because of a conducive environment of how your parents lived or how your grandparents lived, the same mistakes which you are doing, and that is what is actually expressing in itself. So expression, what exactly you mean by that is, everybody have cancer cell, everybody has a potential of getting hypertensed, everybody has a potential of getting obese. But the problem is, if we let that conditions transfer in our physicality, because of which these genes can be expressed, and that can lead to problem. So let's give you a scenario. Let's say that your parents, your grandparent was a farmer. He struggled a lot on the farm. Then your father or your mother, they came off that background and they were actually physically working outside. But today we are working from the home, in the comfort of our home, which we call as work from home ethics or standards. So what has happened is, slowly this physical activity has reduced. So once the physical activity has reduced, we have not changed our pattern of doing things. So because you have reduced your physical activity, you're not reducing your food intake, you are not increasing your physical awareness or activity as such on an overall scale. So what happens is, because of a lot of sitting and eating the same food, we tend to get obesity or diabetes. On the contrary, let's say your grandfather, your parents were having, or your grandfather or your grandmother or your parents were having diabetes, because if you take a favorable steps of being more active than what they had, doing not those mistakes which your parents or your grandparents did, then you can also see to it that diabetes, cancers, hypertension might not reflect in your body. So this is what we can term it as gene expression. So there is an information. So this information has to be encoded. How will this information be encoded? This information can be encoded when there is a favorable conditions around it. So the favorable conditions might be internal, by the way you keep your body, and also external, where the environment is also a factor. So these are the two things which can actually manipulate your genes, and thus can give you a lot of information, and that can express in itself. So that is the reason why I believe that if you're not born with it, then you should not die with it. So basically, you are not born with a diabetes, you're not born with the obesity problem, you're not born with hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, then you should not die with the same diseases. So if you can take care of your body, if you can take care of your mind in a better way, then probably majority of the diseases which we today call as non-communicable diseases should not be attributed to the genes. So how can yoga as a part of it change everything? You are talking about yoga. So there has been a lot of studies. So one such study which is able to perceive the importance or perceive the extent at which the yoga can change is what I have listed. It's also there in the comments below. You can just go and check about the 18 best suited research studies which says that some of the particular asanas, some of the particular techniques in yoga can actually change your gene expressions also. So the study is all about how yoga and meditation can change the molecular reaction in the DNA itself, and this is more towards how neurological disorders can actually reduce, such as Alzheimer's can reduce because of yoga. Parkinson's can also reduce the more you practice yoga, the more influence of Parkinson and Alzheimer's has on your genes, and also that can down regulate the essential factor which is supposed to be nuclear factor of kappa B pathway, and reduce the implications of obesity, cancers, aging, addictions and inflammations in your body. That is the reason why yoga doesn't just talk about asanas. When you say any kind of an implication on your body, you need to know that yoga talks about the 8 important steps. One is yama, which talks about rules and regulations for you when you are in a society. Then niyama, rules and regulations followed by you when you are alone or when and how you can help yourself better. Then asanas, when let's say a thought is there in your mind, and how do you try to get more focus. Let's say you have a disease in your mind and you try to figure out all the things like the best food which is available, the best ways to get out of this disease out of your body. That's what is called as asana, or tranquility in any kind of a let's say activity, not just will not focus it on positions. That leads to pranayama. So when you are trying to give a lot of goodness to your body reciprocates by better way of handling its internal chemistry, which is seen in pranayama. Then that leads to pratyahara. Pratyahara is because of the right combination externally, right combination internally, the entire growth of your body happens in a much more better way. That leads to dharana. This is perceived by your genes, this is perceived by the information which is carried out in your body, and that makes sure that this happens in a better way. That is dhyana. When it is happening, that is called as dhyana. So technically the information which is there, the suppressing of nuclear factor kappa B or expressing this nuclear factor kappa B can be seen in dhyana. That leads to the ultimate answer, that is samadhi. Samadhi is like, if you don't take care of your body, then you have obesity. If you care your body well so that you keep it very active, rejuvenated and resilient, then you have good way of downsizing this reaction, thus reducing the incidence of obesity. So that is the reason why diet also becomes a integral part of yoga. As such, even meditation can hold a lot of things in when you're practicing yoga. So not just asana, also focus on your way of handling your body through food and handling your mind through. So when this research were done on a large scale, they could see that oxidative stress, the stress which is because of your wrong food habits, long lifestyle habits and long drinking habits, there are tend to have some DNA damages. Because even though now you have some problem, even if you now start practicing yoga, you can see that the implications of these DNA damages reverses itself, thus reducing the inflammation in your body, reducing the aging of your body, at the same time reducing the gene expression in itself. So that is the reason why you are more potent of itself to make sure that your genes can actually make a lot of changes, even though there are a lot of mistakes in its way of expressing. So how do you start? So one thing is, you can choose any of the health tips which you have seen in my last few videos about food, about health and about managing your body. Whatever you choose, if you make sure that you want to be more healthy, if you are choosing it now, make sure that you do it for a minimum of 21 days, because that gives your body to adjust to the new changes, and then take it to 90 days so that it becomes a part of your body, something which we call as habit rule. So make sure that you do without fail for the first 21 days, and then you extend it, because 21 days is a junction where you know whether your body is able to adjust to the situations which you have created. At the same time, you can change anything in the same phenomenon. Then what happens is the next 90 days, it becomes a part of your system, it becomes a part of your lifestyle, it becomes a habit, and then it becomes a interesting part of your life. So this is what even yoga talks about. This 21-90 rule is what we call as mandala. So one mandala is nothing but 90 days of practice. So how you can do is make sure that at least 15 to 20 minutes of your day-to-day activity is kept on to something called as mindfulness. Mindfulness is not you're thinking something and you're trying to get the castle in your air. Mindfulness is just checking how you did your entire day. So let's say from morning, waking up to evening, sleeping, if you just recall all the activities which you think was effective enough in your life, and if you're more focused on to building your life, and that itself becomes more mindful in nature. At the same time, it's always best if you start doing yoga, if you start doing mindful meditation, and if you also start doing some of the physical, mental activities. So physical activities is not just walking, it is also aids to trekking, it also aids to cycling. But also when we say about mental activity, painting, singing, at the same time doing your Sudoku is also kind of a mindful activity. So keeping this in mind, try to make sure that you spend at least a minimum of 1.5 hours to 2 hours for yourself for the better genetic modifications in your body. So those who already have diabetes, obesity, hypertension, hypothyroidism, cancer, or any other ailment which majority of the doctors push it on an extreme of telling it as a genetic disorder, make sure that you implement this 21-90 rule, and making sure you implement 20 minutes of any kind of a practice in your day-to-day life, and then slowly you can see any genetic problem, any so-called genetic proceedings or diseases which has been attributed to genetics as such can be reversed and reduced on a larger extent. Bold statement, but if you could do it, probably you can see the results. That is the reason why I am pushing for you to look at such kind of a concept which is available in our traditional texts. So with this, I would first of all thank you for keeping hook on all the videos which have been coming up. Share this video for the people who are concerned. Subscribe for more such intuitive content, and like always, every Saturday I'll be posting up a video so that you can make sure that you learn and start doing something on the free days on Sundays, and that becomes a habit for you. Thank you for staying together. Stay safe at your home and work from home with all the better things which is available around you. Make sure you have a conducive environment for your genes to express, and make sure you don't end up getting new genes introduced in your system or new genes expressing in your system. So till then, keep watching. Thank you.